Okay, I did a thing earlier today. I was talking for 35 minutes. Essentially, it must have been I was rambling because I was saying a whole lot of stuff and nobody heard it in my live because it was muted, sound defect. I don't know what happened. Thank goodness I read my comments. So I'm like, let me go back and have a conversation. Let me get in front of those who want to hear it because even if it's on the replay, they wouldn't have heard anything. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? So yesterday I was having a conversation about my layoff. And to recap, for those who do not know me on these platforms that I'm going live on right now, I used to work for a company for close to 17 years. I was, in my mind, in a good place and status. My credit score was 800. I had 2 houses. I had 2 cars. I was not living from paycheck from paycheck. And if my family or someone dear to me needed something, I was in a position to financially assist them. I was living good. And then all of a sudden, when the company made the decision to no longer have our departments and ended our employment back in April of 2016, it became a life altering circumstance, as you would assume any layoff would. However, even though it was life changing, I did not discuss yesterday that the severance package that I was able to receive wasn't too shabby. I was provided full salary for a little over 8 months. So there wasn't a hiccup based upon my life, my lifestyles, my ability to provide for my household, and the comfort that I was used to was not abruptly pulled from my feet. So, because of that, I decided to take a break. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't just because I financially had the ability to take a break. I was pissed off. I was sitting back reflecting after the day that I had left, April the 16th, 2016. Our our business ties were separated on April the 17th. I was going through the stages of grief and I was in a feeling. I was pissed off. I was sad. I had regret because the majority of that time frame, especially when I no longer desired to stay as an entry front level associate and I wanted to move up the uh, corporate ladder per se, I made personal sacrifices. It wasn't mandated. It was something I chose to do. And it was to the betterment of my family because I raised my children as a single mom and I was the only income that was providing for them and giving them the life that I felt like they deserved. So in that, I was making some sacrifices where thankfully my parents had stepped in and was able to watch my children when I pulled long hours. And there was times that I was sitting in front of the kiddos and we were home and they were watching different programs and I had my work laptop and I am still working. Um, and with that being said, I made a lot of sacrifices. And there's one thing that I hope everybody realizes, that time freedom is something that you can't get back. And we don't know how much time we have. So we need, it'll be nice to use that time with wisdom. And when I got laid off, I was very angry because I couldn't get that time back. The sacrifices I made that um, I can't get back with my kids. That sacrifice of them not able to participate in extracurricular activities because I was not in the position to take them because I was working. I couldn't get that time back. So I was feeling some kind of way. And with that regret, I felt entitled that I needed a break. And with that break, I had mentally told myself that I was going to take about 30 days, 4 weeks, and I was just going to relax. Relaxation meant binge watching certain programs because I wasn't a TV watcher. So I was going to sit back and do that. I was going to go to movies. I was going to shop. I was going to spend time with my granddaughter. Because at that time I only had one grandchild, I was just going to hang out and do some things. And I did. Now, mind you, during that particular time frame, some of my direct reports that I had, we were in communication, and I listened to them as they applied to different positions and encouraged them when they got the rejection. And I was a support system. My colleagues and I were comparing notes about the great opportunities that some of our direct reports had, and brainstorming of ways that we can continue to encourage them, even though we were no longer in that facility. But I still stood firm. I was taking this break. And I wish somebody would have told me, no, don't do it. Don't keep going. And what I mean by that is there was momentum loss from this sense of urgency, from being in the routine, because those 4 weeks, those 30 days, I had gotten a routine that, wait a minute, snooze. I didn't get up at the crack of dawn like I was. The discipline was not there because I was in vacation mode, mentally and physically. So when it came back to the time that after those 30 days that I was going to apply for new positions, it was one of those things that I was like, wait a minute, I'm applying for these new positions and I don't understand what's happening. And what I mean by that is when I got hired at that company in 2000, it was March 2000. I was temping there before, and they had a physical HR office. So all I had to do at 7 months pregnant was waddle down to that office, turn in a paper application and a paper resume, and go inside the office and have an interview. There wasn't no Zoom, no video chats. There wasn't no online vetting based upon keywords. Those were things that I was not familiar with. So when I had to go through the job search job search process, it was unique. It was different because remember, in the 1900s when I was working before I started this company in 2000, I was used to the HR recruiter giving me a call and saying, "Hello, Ms. Hill, we want to extend the opportunity for you to work with us." Or, "Hello, Ms. Hill, unfortunately, there was another candidate that meet the needs. If you're interested in the future, we think you should work on this." There was communication. And that's what I was used to. This new wave of after layoff, applying for employment was different. It was like crickets. I'm putting in resumes, I'm filling them out, I'm doing online surveys. There was even some things that after you did the resume, you may have gotten an email. Now do a video 60-second talk about yourself. There was so many different things that I was not used to. And it had nothing to do with my age, that now I'm going back into the workforce in my 40s when I started in my 20s. It wasn't that. It was um it was just different. Keywords, I didn't know that. And I took this break um that I thought was 30 days. Now it became a series of months. And the reason why it became a series of months is because one, the employers were looking at how much I was getting paid at the previous company and immediately, unbeknownst to me, declining me. And I was like, what is happening? And then when I was comparing notes with other people, it's like, yeah, it's those um, AI things, keywords. Now, mind you, this was 2016. AI is totally different now. I could only imagine what the um, online process is for applying for employment now. But I wish somebody would have told me not to wait. I didn't understand the word momentum and how it correlated from layoff to transition to employment. Because, see, after you work for one company, you work for them for so long and you get used to their culture, their processes, their leadership, their incentives, their pay. And then you go somewhere else and you have that stigma like, are they going to lay me off? What's going to happen? They're not like this company. And you start to compare the longevity at those particular companies after layoffs may not be the same. And I wish somebody would have told me that. They didn't. And I went to different seminars that was offered after layoff, which was part of the severance package, I guess you could say. And nobody talks about that. They just talks about, hey, we can assist you with further education because of this circumstance. And in my mind, I blocked that part out because I didn't need it. Prior to getting this job, I was the poster child for gaining employment. You know, I was in my teens and early 20s. Somebody said something to me wrong, looked at me wrong. I didn't like something that happened. The weather was a certain way. I would quit the job, walk off, do whatever, and the same day get another job. So when I was at this job and now I realized that it was a career, we're working towards retirement, and now the rug has been pulled from me and I have to start all over. And even the application process is different. The culture is different. And I'm starting as an entry employee wherever. Even if it was a leadership job, it's still entry because now I'm a rookie. Things were different. And I didn't know about options. I didn't know about uh, being an entrepreneur. I knew entrepreneurs, don't get me wrong. But the era that I grew up in, you get a job, you work that job, you stay that job, and then you retire from the job and you get a pension check or retirement check, and that's just the way it goes. So that was the path that I was carving. But then when I started working at companies and it wasn't working out, that 1 month of break turned in 2 months and 3 months and 4 months. And wait a minute, I'm getting nervous now because my severance is going to run out soon. And then we're at 5 months. Now I'm making reckless decisions. I'm just taking anything and everything. I'm working graveyard shifts and I'm working two jobs and falling asleep on the floor because I'm working graveyard and my body's like, you fool, you can't do this no more. And all the while in the back of my mind, I'm getting more pissed off at the company that laid me off because I'm foreshadowing the fact that here I am. I had an 800 credit score, two cars, two houses, and I'm nervous and scared that I'm about to lose it all. and regretting the fact that I took a break. I felt like when I took a break, I was behind the eight ball. Because now my colleagues that were in leadership alongside me, even though they were the last of the Mohicans to the direct reports like me, they started to get jobs. And I'm still like, what's happening? What's happening? And so I went back to get my certification. And when I got my certification, I was like, all right, I'm going to be a project manager because I went to get a CompTIA A plus certification. So that's what my goal was to be. I had a whole plan. Long story short, that plan did not work out. And now we're in month 7. Talk about desperate. I'm pulling up temp agencies. Now, mind you, nobody's talking about Terry start a business. Nobody's telling me about business opportunities. Nobody's talking about anything. And I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing it around anywhere. None of my friends, none of my family, nobody's in my ear. And I'm up here trying to figure this sugar honey iced tea out all by myself with 2 mortgages and 1 car note because the other car was paid off. And yeah, Jay, it was crazy. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I get ahead? So I'm going through the temp companies and I'm finding assignments. Now, mind you, my first home was in the resort area of the state that I live in. So there was all kinds of employment out there, from being administrative assistants, working in medical offices, to back to even more call centers would give me opportunities. However, the city that I moved to is predominantly warehouses. So guess what happens? I have my bougie self now have to work in an industry that I'm unfamiliar with. Not only am I unfamiliar with it, my body is not equipped to it. Like physically, I'm coming home from working in these warehouses broke down. Epsom salt has become my best friend. And the whole time this is going on, I am pissed off with myself that I took a break. I am anxious because these temp jobs are not equivalent to the amount of money that I was making. So I'm up here, yes, I was getting a paycheck, but the paycheck was far from what I was able to do to support my households. So guess what? The severance clock is ticking again. And now I'm at month 8. In a matter of weeks, my severance is about to be over. Now I'm working, but financially, it's not enough money to support everything. So my 0 balance credit cards with high credit lines, because my credit score allowed me to do it, are now being used to live off of. Because the job that I had after I paid some of my bills, I had no money to eat. And so let's go by, which again, I don't know if I mentioned, but my job that I got laid off on was in the financial industry. And I knew that buying things that were tangible, such as food, on credit cards may not have been the wise thing to do. But a sister and a daughter, because my youngest was still with me and living with me at the time, we needed to eat. And there's one thing that I won't go do is starve. So swipey go swipey. Swipey go swipey. Then, with temp jobs, assignments start and assignments end. And when they ended, oops, I got to pay the light bill. I got to pay the water bill. Swipey go swipey. And the whole time I'm like, oh my God, I wish somebody would have a conversation with me because I had something and now I'm seeing it lose because not only am I using my credit cards for my everyday expenses, I don't have money to make some of these minimum payments. So that 800 credit score is starting to go do, 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 and down. And I wish somebody would have told me not to take a break. And in addition to not to take a break, to give me solutions, to give me options, to give me a way out outside of working. Because the jobs that I was being extended was not enough to support me. So what can I do? Some of these jobs was in the middle of the day because when you're new, you don't get the perfect schedule. So they were like 1 to 11. What can I work before 1 and what can I work after 11? And then I'm going to these places, and the city that I live in is 40 minutes generally from any direction. Yeah, that wasn't looking good. So fast forward, I ended up, as my story yesterday shared, I ended up becoming a traditional business owner. I started a company and I worked in that company solo because working for someone else wasn't working for me. But if somebody would have told me, as I'm coming to you guys to tell you now, that if you were part of a layoff, or even better yet, before, because you don't know what this world is going to extend to you, if you can find something that you could work alongside of what you're already doing, that just in case something happened, you wouldn't be broke. You wouldn't have a go-to. You wouldn't have a plan B. If somebody would have told me that, if somebody would have introduced to me the opportunity, for example, of what I do is be a travel agent, where I could do it in my spare time, in between time, that there was no quotas and there was no demands on, okay, because that's another thing. That's another thing that happened was when it came down to getting hired for a secondary job, sometimes these training classes was in between the schedule of what you're already working. So when people say go get a second job, that wasn't easy to get a second job because I was already working a job, and the training, even if the permanent hours was conducive to what I could work, the training was not conducive to what I was doing. So if somebody told me, hey, look, Terry, you could be a travel agent, you could do this, it could be in your own time, the training, you could do it, you could stop it, you could push play again, you could pause it. If I knew what I know now, life would have been different. It would have been so different before and after. Because yes, I'm gonna give you an example. It would have been different if I would have known something about that before layoff, because the handwriting was on the wall. But if I knew afterwards all the different seminars, all the different options that were given to people when they got laid off, if there was a workshop that said, hey, unemployed layoff worker, you have severance. Your severance may be good. Take some of that in severance and invest it in yourself and start something. And that's something that you could start. You could work alongside your job search. I would have said, how much? Let me sign up. Let me do this. But I didn't know. And if you know better, you do better. So I wish, that's one regret that I have from layoff. Out of the other 9 that I will be sharing over the course of the next few days, because I said there was 10, that I wish somebody would have educated me not to take a break. Because yes, I talked about ways to earn, but the big thing is I want to share is when you take that break, it has the potential to stop the momentum. And then that time that you took, you'll be taking that time tenfold in order to get the footing that you need to be back in the financial position that you're in. And unfortunately, in the regular day in and day out, my way of living was not able to be done by the jobs that I was being offered after layoff. It did not financially support my household. And so I ended up losing everything, my credit score, my ability to, you name it. Thankfully, I still had my house, and I'm thankful for that. But it was hard. So I spend a lot of my time as a travel agent also educating others. It's like a mission of mine, because I never, ever, 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 ever want anybody else to be in a position that I was in, that you had it all. And because of a decision that a company made that you had no control over, you lose it all. And then when you lose it, you have to rebuild it. And rebuilding does not look the same. So, yeah, don't take that break, because you never know that as you go through the course of journey of gaining employment and it works or don't work, that that break may be filtered into that process, because not often do you get hired the first time. So what do you have in place? So I've been committed thereafter that I don't never want one source of income to control me. So I give the gift of education. I give the gift of being aware. Find something else. Find something to work alongside what you already have. And travel is a great thing to do it. And if you want to know more, I would love to share. Information is free. It don't cost a dime. And if you're interested in just getting the information, drop in the comments info and I'll reach out to you, because taking that break without anything to help you along during that break, I don't want it to be your detriment as it was for me. Well, have a phenomenal day on purpose.